The shot came out of nowhere, 3 flashes of light, 1 scream, and then silence. On the cracked pavement of Oak Haven Street, a 9-year-old black girl knelt beside her dying dog, blood soaking through her white sneakers. "Why did you kill my dog?" she screamed, her trembling hands gripping the pistol she'd found under the porch, the same gun that once belonged to her father, a fallen Marine. The cop stepped back, eyes wide. Cameras were rolling. Neighbors were shouting. And just before she pulled the trigger, a black SUV came sliding into the scene, doors flying open. "FBI. Drop your weapon." But this time, it wasn't aimed at the child. Before we begin, drop your city or country in the comments. I'd love to see how far this message travels. And if you believe that no uniform should ever silence an innocent voice, hit that like button and subscribe, because this channel stands for stories where truth wins, power falls, and justice speaks loud. The sun hung low over Oak Haven Street, turning every window gold. It was one of those quiet afternoons that almost feel too perfect to last. 9-year-old Arya Williams ran barefoot across the freshly cut grass, laughter echoing as her black Labrador, Shadow, leapt after a worn-out tennis ball. Shadow wasn't just her dog, he was her last piece of her father, Marcus Williams, a Marine who never came back from his final deployment. Her mother, Renee Williams, worked long hours at the Bureau, an FBI agent whose life revolved around evidence, deadlines, and justice. But for Arya, Renee was just Mom, the woman who made chocolate pancakes on Sundays and told bedtime stories that always ended with the same line. "No matter what they take from you, baby, never let them take your truth." Across the street, a police cruiser idled near the curb. Officer Breener, mid-40s, jaw like stone, watched the girl playing with an expression that wasn't curiosity, it was irritation. He'd been called to the neighborhood weeks ago for loitering kids and noise complaints. The caller had always been the same, an elderly woman who didn't like seeing certain people in her kind of area. Arya didn't notice the cruiser. She was too busy showing Shadow a new trick her dad had taught him before he left. Shadow barked twice, tail wagging. The world, for that brief second, was still beautiful. From the window, Renee smiled at the sight. She whispered softly to herself, "Just one peaceful day, that's all I ask." But peace has a cruel way of ending. Sometimes, it only lasts until the next blink. The sound that shattered that peace wasn't thunder, it was a gunshot. 3, to be exact. It happened so fast that no one really saw who drew first. The tennis ball rolled across the pavement, Shadow barked once, then fell silent, a black silhouette lying still against the sunlit concrete. Arya froze. For a heartbeat, the world stopped breathing with her. Then came the scream, high, sharp, endless. She dropped to her knees beside Shadow, hands shaking as she pressed them against the wound. "No, no, no. Shadow, wake up. Please." Her small voice cracked, carrying across the street where Officer Breener stood, gun still drawn, smoke curling from the barrel. Neighbors began peeking out from their doors, some holding phones, some whispering. Breener muttered under his breath, "Should have kept it on a leash." Arya looked up, tears streaming down her face. "You killed him," she whispered. Breener's eyes hardened. "Step away from the animal, kid. It's just a dog. Just a dog." Those words burned through her like fire. She stared down at Shadow, the same dog who used to sleep beside her when nightmares came, who barked every time she missed her father, who wagged his tail like he understood. And now, he was gone. Arya stood slowly, blood staining her hands. She looked toward the porch, where a wooden crate sat, half covered in dust. Inside, she knew, was her father's old pistol, the one Renee kept locked away but never really hid. Breener was already turning back to his cruiser, muttering into his radio. That's when Arya moved. Her small hands gripped the gun's cold metal. It felt too heavy, but grief makes even the smallest heart strong. She stepped onto the street. "Why did you kill my dog?" Breener froze. He turned, saw the pistol in her hands, and the crowd of neighbors now recording. "Put that down," he barked, voice shaking. Arya didn't flinch. Her voice, trembling but steady, cut through the silence. You killed my shadow. You killed my best friend. Why should I listen to you? Sirens wailed in the distance. A helicopter's hum began to echo faintly over the rooftops. And as Officer Breener reached for his weapon again, Arya's finger found the trigger. The air turned electric, like the world itself was holding its breath. Arya's hands trembled, but her eyes didn't. She stood there, small but unbroken, staring down the man who'd just taken the only piece of her father she had left. Put it down. Breener shouted again, louder this time, his voice cracking with fear and authority all tangled together. But Arya didn't move. Behind her, the neighbors' whispers grew louder. She's just a kid. She's got a gun. Is anyone gonna stop him? The cameras were everywhere now, cell phones raised high, lenses capturing a moment that would soon divide the nation. Breener's radio buzzed on his shoulder. Unit 4, back up en route. He took a slow step forward. Arya, listen to me, he said, lowering his tone. I know you're scared. She shook her head, tears cutting lines through the dirt on her face. No. You don't. In her mind, she saw her father, Staff Sergeant Leon Brooks, standing tall in his uniform, smiling as he told her, protect what you love, baby girl. Always. That memory was the only thing holding her together now. Breener adjusted his stance, finger hovering near his trigger. Arya saw the movement. Her heart pounded so loud she could barely hear anything else. Somewhere down the street, a car engine roared. Then, screeching tires. A black SUV slid into view, doors flying open before it even stopped. Men in tactical gear rushed out, badges flashing. FBI. Drop your weapon. For a split second, Breener thought they were talking to Arya, his gun snapped upward toward her again. But the agents didn't aim at her. Their rifles locked onto him. Breener froze, confusion spreading across his face. What the hell? The lead agent's voice thundered. Officer Breener, step away from the child. You're under investigation for the Oak Ridge shooting. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Arya blinked, her small body shaking as the weight of the gun finally pulled her down. She dropped it to the ground and fell to her knees beside Shadow again. The agents swarmed past her. Breener's face went pale. Wait, you don't understand. But the cuffs clicked. And for the first time in years, justice didn't come from a badge, it came from the truth. Miles away, in the quiet hum of a federal office, Agent Naomi Brooks was finishing her report. Another late night, another stack of paperwork about people she couldn't save in time. She reached for her coffee mug, then froze, the alert on her monitor flashing red. Dispatch. Oak Haven Street. Officer involved shooting. Suspect, minor female. Possible weapon on scene. Her eyes narrowed. That street name, it wasn't just familiar, it was home. She clicked the report open, scanning the attached photo from a bystander's phone. And then, her heart stopped. There, on the screen, was a little girl in a white shirt, her hands shaking, standing beside a black dog on the pavement. Naomi's breath caught in her throat. No, that can't be. She zoomed in. The necklace glinting around the girl's neck, a small silver tag engraved with a marine emblem. Her husband's dog tag. Her vision blurred. That was her daughter. Her Arya. Papers fell from her desk as she grabbed her badge and weapon. Her chair toppled backward. Brooks, what's going on? One agent shouted as she sprinted past. She didn't answer. All she could hear was her own pulse pounding in her ears, the same rhythm she'd felt when she got the call about her husband years ago. The day they told her Leon Brooks had been killed in a crossfire. But deep down, Naomi had always known there was more. Now, staring at that dispatch photo, she finally understood. This wasn't random. This was the same officer, the same name. Breener. He'd been there that night too. And now, he was standing in front of her daughter. Naomi slammed the car door and hit the sirens. Oak Haven Street, she whispered. Hold on, baby. Mama's coming. The red and blue lights reflected off her tears as the SUV sped through the city. The storm she'd buried for years was about to break wide open. The SUV roared down Oak Haven like thunder on a summer sky. Naomi barely slammed the brakes before the tires screamed against the asphalt. The second the door swung open, she was already shouting, FBI! Drop your weapon! Her voice cut through the chaos like lightning. Phone swung her way, recording, capturing every second of what would soon flood the nation. The cop, Officer Breener, turned toward her, confused, annoyed, then frozen. He recognized that voice. That face. Naomi's badge flashed in the fading sunlight as she stepped between him and the child. Her child. Naomi Brooks, federal agent, she said, gun steady, voice trembling just enough to betray the storm inside. Put your weapon down. Breener's eyes darted to Arya, the small trembling girl clutching the pistol, eyes full of tears and fury. Then back to Naomi. Wait, she's your kid? His voice cracked. Naomi didn't answer. Every fiber of her body screamed to run, to hold her daughter, to tell her everything was going to be okay, but she couldn't. Not yet. Put it down, Breener, she said again, lower this time. Don't make me do this. But the officer's face twisted, part fear, part pride. You don't understand, he stammered. That dog, it lunged at me. That dog was her only family left. Naomi's voice echoed across the street. The crowd fell silent. Even the air seemed to stop. Arya's tiny hand shook harder. Her tears streaked through the dirt on her face. He killed Shadow, Mama, she whispered. He shot him. Naomi's heart broke in two right there. She lowered her weapon slowly, keeping her eyes on Breener. Sweetheart, listen to me. You don't have to carry this. Not like I did. Put it down, baby. Arya blinked, tears falling like rain. The world held its breath. Then, click. The pistol hit the pavement. The sound echoed louder than any gunshot. Naomi exhaled, moving fast, pulling Arya into her arms, shielding her behind her body. Breener lowered his gun, stepping back, but too late. His name, his actions, the truth, all of it was already caught on a dozen phones. Justice had arrived. And this time, it wore a badge and a mother's heart. For a split second, silence hung heavy, then Breener reached for his gun again. The crowd gasped. Arya screamed. But Naomi was already moving. Years of training and years of pain converged into one instinct, protect. She lunged, slamming into him before he could aim. The gun flew, clattering across the asphalt. Get your hands off me, he shouted, trying to wrestle her off, but Naomi's fury was something he'd never faced, not in any suspect, not in any raid. This wasn't procedure. This was personal. You think you can keep doing this, she shouted, pinning him down. Her voice broke between rage and tears. Killing families and calling it an accident? Phones surrounded them like witnesses. The truth was live now, no report could twist it, no badge could bury it. Breener's face turned pale. Naomi. I didn't mean to. But she cut him off, her voice trembling with both pain and power. You killed my husband, and now you killed his dog. You pointed your gun at our daughter. You don't get to not mean it. Not anymore. His eyes widened. Your husband? You mean? Leon Brooks, she said. The Marine you called a threat. The one who bled out on your watch. For the first time, Breener had no words. The man who once commanded fear now looked small, cornered by truth. Naomi rose, pulling her cuffs free, her voice sharp and final. Officer Breener, you're under arrest for the murder of Leon Brooks, obstruction of justice, and endangering a child. The crowd erupted, cheers, gasps, tears, a storm of voices echoing across the night. Arya ran into her mother's arms again, crying against her chest. Naomi held her tight, whispering through her own tears. "It's over, baby. He can't hurt us anymore." Behind them, the red and blue lights danced across the wet pavement. For the first time in years, they didn't feel like danger, they felt like justice. The night over Oak Haven Street felt heavier after the sirens faded. The chaos had left, but the silence it left behind was louder than ever. Breener sat on the curb, handcuffed, his face pale under the flashing lights. No one looked at him. Not the neighbors. Not the officers. For the first time, the man who once barked orders was nothing but another broken piece of a broken system. Naomi knelt beside her daughter, holding her tight. Her voice trembled, half comfort, half apology. "It's okay, baby. It's over now. No one will ever point a gun at you again. I promise." Arya didn't speak. She just looked at the small still body beside them, the one who'd barked every time she cried, who stood between her and fear. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "He was a good boy, Mom. He was just trying to protect me." Naomi's voice broke. "I know, sweetheart. And now I'm going to protect him." The camera panned slowly, the mother and daughter silhouetted against the flashing lights, the crowd quiet, the night sky trembling with the hum of distant thunder. For once, no one shouted. No one made excuses. The truth stood alone, and that was enough. That night, every person on that street went home changed. Because they hadn't just seen justice served. They'd seen love fight back. By morning, the footage was everywhere. News outlets, social media, even the evening headlines. Officer shoots family dog, aims gun at child, FBI agent intervenes. The department tried to twist the truth. But every lie collapsed under the weight of the footage. The unfiltered, undeniable evidence. Naomi didn't stop at the internal report. She leaked the full body cam footage herself. Every frame. Every second. Every word Breener had tried to hide. Within a week, the police chief resigned. 2 officers were suspended. And for the first time in Oak Haven's history, the community held a vigil. Not for a fallen officer, but for a fallen protector named Shadow. Months later, the courthouse echoed with footsteps and cameras. Officer Breener stood in chains. The same hands that once held power now trembled as the judge read his name. Naomi raised her right hand, took the oath, and spoke with a calm that silenced the room. "He didn't just shoot a dog," she said softly. "He shot the only piece of peace a child had left in this world." The courtroom was still. Not even the reporters dared to type. Then, the sound of justice. The judge's gavel struck down like thunder. Life imprisonment. No parole. Outside, microphones and flashing lights followed Naomi. But she stopped only once to speak. Justice isn't about power, it's about protection. And for the first time, the crowd didn't just listen. They believed. That evening, back on Oak Haven Street, the world felt quieter. Not empty, just finally at peace. Under the old oak tree, a small gravestone stood where the grass met the light. It read, "Shadow, loyal friend, brave soul, forever home." Arya knelt beside it, her small fingers brushing against the carved letters. She placed a single tennis ball beside the stone and whispered, "We did it, boy. Mom made it right." The camera pulled back slowly. Golden sunlight spilling over mother and daughter, casting long, gentle shadows that touched the horizon. Naomi rested her hand on Arya's shoulder. Neither spoke for a while. They didn't have to. Finally, her voice, soft, trembling, but strong, broke the silence. Because sometimes, justice doesn't wear a badge. She looked down at her daughter. It wears a mother's heart. Fade out. Soft instrumental music swells, the sound of mourning, of healing, of truth finally breathing again.